That's right. That's right. It's 7 o'clock. It's time to start our Newark City Council meeting. Janine, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rath?
Here.
Mr. Roy?
Here.
Mr. Barker?
Here.
Ms. Blind? Here. Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Pottinger? Here. Mr. Hauser?
Here.
Mr. Labutus?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Present.
Mr. Moore?
We're all here tonight. Would you like to stand for the invocation by Mr. Labutus?
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we come to pray this evening. We thank you for this day that you have given us, another day to serve you and to serve our city. I ask that you be with us this evening in our meeting and our discussions, be guided by you, be with our safety forces day and every day and protect them as they help to protect us. Be with us this evening and we'll praise your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Remain standing tonight. Our pledge are by two sisters, Amari Lopez and Deanna Lopez from Carson.
Yep.
Third and first grade. Come on up, girls.
You lift?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, girls.
Very nice.
Next on the agenda is my caucus. Time for council to bring up about things. Mr. Marmy.
I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Ellington.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That passes. Yes.
On ordinance, I'm sorry, resolution 22-79-A, I will be abstaining.
Anything else? Next is the minutes of the August 15th meeting, 2022. Do you have a motion for that?
Motion.
Second by Labutus, second by Barker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next is reports of standing committees, finance service personnel have been received and filed. Reports from city officials, there are none tonight. And we have a proclamation by Mayor Hall tonight on the childhood cancer awareness month, September.
Good. I'm going to ask Lori Davis to join me up front, please. Lori is joining us. She unfortunately lost a niece, just 8 years old last year, cancer.
21 years
Oh,
old.
21, okay, somebody.
That was diagnosed at 8.
Well, diagnosed at 8.
And fought for 15 years.
Wow, that's something. So it kind of gives you chills a little bit, everybody. I'd like to share a proclamation, whereas Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is an annual campaign to raise awareness about childhood cancer and to express support for children and adolescents with cancer, the survivors, and their families. Childhood cancer affects thousands of young Americans each year and is a leading cause of disease-related death for children. This year, more than 10,000 of our nation's youth will be diagnosed with this life-threatening disease. Approximately 40,000 children are on active treatment at any given time, and 2/3 of childhood cancer patients have chronic health conditions as a result of their treatment. Childhood cancer is devastating, and families face an enormous burden. Researchers and healthcare professionals work diligently, dedicating their expertise to treat and cure children with cancer. Hundreds of nonprofit organizations at the local and national level are helping children with cancer and their families cope through educational, promotional, and financial support. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Hall, Mayor of the great city of Newark, do hereby proclaim September 2022 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Newark, Ohio, and strongly urge all citizens to get involved in the fight to end childhood cancer. So, go ahead and take a quick little picture. And if you share a few words on this one, Bob.
Emily was 8 years old. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and you don't even think of ovarian cancer in an 8-year-old. So if you have children, if you have wives, sisters, everybody, every female, please watch for the signs and know the signs. There's a lot of resources out there that can tell you what to look for, because we were misdiagnosed many, many times because she was 8 years old. So please do your due diligence in that and help all the females in your life, and do get involved in some of the organizations. There's a lot that, despite Emily's trials that she went through, they really helped her a lot. So please do as much as you can in that regard.
All right, thank you for sharing it personally.
Okay, next, communications, Spencer Barker, Light the Night Car Show, returns to downtown Newark on September 10th, 2022. Roger Loomis Water Administration properties being sent to lien for past due water, sewer, and storm water bills in the amount of $11,096.59. And the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, new application from the Block and Cleaver, 54 West Main Street, North Ohio, 43355. Next on the agenda is comments for citizens. We have two opportunities. This is the first opportunity. Do we have anybody that would like to speak tonight?
Stephen Smith, 237 Violet Court, Ohio. The last council meeting, we had a gentleman, citizen, speak out against the problems caused by his view by homeless people in the community. And I just wanted to give some thoughts about that. There are people here who will be able to speak with much more eloquence and authority than I can. I did want to make my comments. The preamble to the Constitution of our country says that we are to promote the general welfare of our citizens. It's written in the Ohio State Constitution that effect as well. People who are homeless need to be helped. I don't think we should be doing simple handouts. I think we should be helping them. That's not a simple handout. My goal would be to make these homeless people housed and productive in tax-paying citizens. Comments were made about problems relating to needles being left around, and yet we have no needle exchange programs in this county, which would alleviate that problem and would be helpful for getting these people out of their addictions and helping them to overcome their problems. Problems with public urination and such, and yet there are no facilities where some of these people have to be able to take care of those functions in a sanitary manner, sanitary private manner. Something I ran across some time ago that is, you all know that everything you see on the internet is true, but it gets to as a writer, I know that you can get to truth through fiction. And I'll just read this comment, this statement. In a comment with some coworkers today, one of them said that homeless people should just have to work for their meals, just like everyone, just like the rest of us. I said, okay, I know a man who's homeless. He'd be happy to work. He's got a business degree. He would be happy to come clean your house, do your yard work, or do some filing, walk your dogs, babysit your kids, or just about any other office job. What time tomorrow should he come see you? They all just looked at me. I said, mind you, he's homeless, so he hasn't showered for a while. The only clothes he has are the ones on his back because he lost all his stuff last week when he got picked up for vagrancy. They wouldn't let him go back for his bag. It'd be a few weeks before what you're paying him would be enough for him to get shelter and such. Still, they stared at me. I finished. See, isn't that easy? He can't get a job because he's homeless. No access to hot water or clean clothes. He can't get access to shelter, hot water, or clean clothes without a job. Want him to work for his meals? Give him a hand out of the vicious circle. Stop pretending that all he has to do is get a job. Now, this is probably a fictional story, but I do know for a fact one of the people that I see regularly at the homeless outreach is a trained professional with an advanced degree. May have some mental issues. That means he needs help. He has a skill that is useful for our society and is being wasted. Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to speak at this time? Okay, we're moving on. Ordinance on the second reading.
Ordinance number 22-20 by Mr. Lang, Mr. Barker, Mr. Marmy, Ms. Blind, Mr. Harris, Mr. Rath, and Mr. Hauser. An ordinance amending the department authorization tables of the City of Newark Department of Service and the Auditor's Office by abolishing the position of financial analyst in the Service Department and creating the position of financial analyst in the Office of the Auditor.
Mr. Lane,
Thank you. I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-20.
Second.
motion by Mr. Lane, second by Mr. Barker. Any questions or discussion? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes,
Ms. Hattiger,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser,
Yes.
Mr. Labutus,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
that passes 10-0. Next ordinance on the first reading, 22-24.
Ordinance number 22-24 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, Mr. Hauser, and Ms. Blind. To provide for the issuance of not to exceed $310,000 of bond anticipation notes. Sorry. In the anticipation of issuance of bonds for the purpose of obtaining a portion of the cost of burial of overhead electric cable and telephone lines, including easement, acquisition, and alley repairs and all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
This is emergency, so Mr. Marmy,
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-24.
motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane. Any questions or comments? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes,
Ms. Hattiger,
Yes.
Mr. Hauser,
Yes.
Mr. Labutus,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
that passes 10-0. Next on the agenda is ordinance 22-15. Or 25.
Ordinance number 22-25 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $870,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of constructing the new fourth and main roundabout and all the necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
This too is an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-25.
Second.
a motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane. Any questions? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
That passes 10-0. Next is 22-26.
Ordinance number 22-26 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, and Ms. Blind to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $1,590,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of road, bridge, and bike path improvements and all necessary appurtenances thereto and declaring an emergency.
This too is an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr.
make
Marmy,
a motion to adopt ordinance 22-26.
Second.
motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Any questions, comments? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Sorry.
That passes 10-0. Next is 22-27.
Ordinance number 22-27 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $820,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of ice rink roof replacement and all necessary appurtenances thereto and declaring an emergency.
This too is an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-27.
Second.
motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Any questions, comments? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind? Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Hattiger? Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
That passes 10-0. Next is ordinance 22-28.
Ordinance number 22-28 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $2,550,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of Tamarack 40th Street upgrade, stormwater improvements, and all necessary appurtenances thereto and declaring an emergency.
This too is an emergency. What is your wish,
Mr. President,
Mr.
make a
Marmy?
motion to adopt ordinance 22-28.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes,
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
that passes 10-0. Next up is 22-29.
Ordinance number 22-29 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath to provide for the issuance of not to exceed $2,340,000 of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of water system improvements and all necessary appurtenances thereto and declaring an emergency.
This too is an emergency. What is your wish?
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-29.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Questions? Comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Ms.
Yes,
Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
that passes 10-0. Next up is ordinance 22-30.
Ordinance number 22-30 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath, and ordinance consolidating 6 bond anticipation note issues in the city of Newark, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
It's, what is your wish?
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-30.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Any comments, questions? Janine, please call the
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yeah.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
roll. Yes,
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
that passes 10-0. Next up is ordinance 22-31.
Ordinance number 22-31 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, Mr. Rath, and ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $3,040,000 Sharon Valley Road Fire Station Number 5 refunding bond, series 2022, and declaring an emergency.
This too is an emergency. What is your wish?
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-31.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Any comments or questions? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes,
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
that passes 10-0. Next up is 22-32.
Ordinance number 22-32 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath, an ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $1,660,000 Horns Hill Waterworks Road Area Improvement Bond, series 2022, and declaring an emergency.
What is your wish?
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-32.
Motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Any comments, questions? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
That passes 10-0. Next up is ordinance 22-33.
Ordinance number 22-23 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath, an ordinance consolidating bond issues of the city of Newark, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt ordinance 22-33.
Motion, Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Questions, comments? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
That passes 10-0. Next up is ordinance 22-34.
Ordinance number 22-34 by Mr. Barker, an ordinance abolishing the division of traffic control within the Department of Public Service, abolishing the division of traffic control positions of 3 traffic technicians and 1 traffic street worker, creating 2 equipment operator positions in the Department of Public Service Street Maintenance Division, and reclassifying and amending the pay range and position authorization tables of the Street Maintenance Division to absorb the remaining division of the traffic control positions.
Okay, this will be held until our next meeting, which is September 19th. Next up is resolutions on the second reading. 22-70.
Resolution number 22-70 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Mr. Rath, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to adopt resolution 22-70.
Second.
motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Ryan. Any comments, questions? Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
That passes 10-0. Next up is resolutions on the first reading, 22-73.
Resolution number 22-73 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Ms. Rath, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
This will be held until our next meeting, September 19th. Next is resolution 22-74.
Resolution number 22-74 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, and Ms. Blind. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to accept bids and sell certain surplus personal property now owned by the city of Newark, Ohio, and declaring that such property is no longer needed for any municipal purpose and declaring an emergency.
What's your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt 22-74.
Second.
motion by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Barker to adopt. Any comments or questions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
this has the emergency clause on it to meet advertising deadline.
Okay. Thank you. Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
That passes 10-0. Next up is resolution 22-75.
Resolution number 22-75 expedite by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, and Mr. Rath, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 22-75.
Second.
so we have a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane. Please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes. Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to adopt resolution 22-75.
Second.
motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lane. Please call the roll.
Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger?
Yes.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mr. Labutus?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mr. Marmy?
Yes.
Next up is, that passes 10-0. Next up is resolution 22-76.
Resolution number 22-76 by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Barker, Ms. Blind, and Mr. Rath. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the Ohio Department of Public Safety for fiscal year 2023 body worn camera grant funding.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marmy,
make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 22-76.
Second.
motion by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Rath to waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Harris, Ms.
Yes,
Hattiger.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes. Mr. President,
Mr.
make a
Marmy,
motion to adopt resolution 22-76.
Second.
motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Rath. Comments, questions? Can you please call roll?
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Harris. Ms.
Yes,
Hattiger.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
that passes 10-0. Next up is resolution 22-77.
Resolution number 22-77 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, and Ms. Blind. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio, to proceed with the steps necessary to designate a portion of alley running west from North 4th Street in the downtown area as Louis E. Claggett Way.
This will be held until our next meeting, September 19th. Next is 22-78.
Resolution number 22-78 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Barker, and Ms. Blind. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and enter into contract without competitive bidding for the purchase of breathing apparatus equipment and RIT packs within the Division of Fire and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
make a motion to adopt 22-78.
Second.
motion by Mr. Rath, second by Ms. Blind to adopt. Comments, questions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
we have the emergency clause on this because our equipment is going to expire in a very short period of time. We're not asking for competitive bid because it's only one company that provides this equipment to us.
can you please call the roll?
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Ms. Blind,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Ms. Hattiger.
Yes.
Mr. Hauser.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
That passes 10-0. And our last one tonight is 22-79-A.
Resolution number 22-79A by Mr. Marmy. A resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service for the City of Newark, Ohio to negotiate and enter into a purchase agreement without competitive bidding with Park National Bank for the lease purchase of 5 vehicles.
This will be held until our next meeting, which is September 19th. And that concludes our ordinance and resolutions and everything else. Good job, Jenny.
Yes.
It's a lot of reading.
It's a lot.
Next up is your second opportunity for citizen comments. So. Ms. White.
Desiree Blake, 125 South Second Street. I was wondering, I know Second Street's going to get done, but where the four-way stop sign is, if you ever thought about putting a light back up there again, because tonight I was watching and someone almost got hit because the cars are running the stop signs. And it's really bad right there in that area. And I'm afraid one of these kids is going to get hit or get killed or something. And I don't know if a light back up there, because I know there was a light there before when I was growing up, we had a light there. Why they took the light down, that's probably when Hartsville School closed down. But we need something done in that area right there, because there's so many cars who's running those stop signs. And someone's going to really get hit, get hurt real bad, or get killed.
The intersection.
Innocent of Fleet and Second.
Okay.
And another question, part of Second Street is like 35 miles and one half is 25. Why is there a difference when you get past Second Fleet and Second? That part going uptown is 25 and the other part is 35. And you're still in the same residential area. Why couldn't it just stay at 25 all the way up? Because all the cars, as soon as they get past that stop sign, they're speeding right up there. And one of these kids are going to get hurt. And I hate to see that. And tonight, a bicyclist almost got hit because a car ran the stop sign and everything. But we need to figure out something to do if putting a light back up there will solve the problem. Or after the street gets done, repaint the lines, because the lines do need repainted. But it's just something that needs, the city needs to do something before someone does get killed right in that area.
Thank you. We'll check into it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Mossholder?
Linda Mossholder, 224 Green Meadow Drive, Newark, Ohio. I'd just like to address some of the comments also made at the last council meeting. There has been an ongoing belief that people are being dropped off in Newark because we have a lot of services. I would just like to know where they're being dropped off. Are they being dropped off on the streets? Are they being dropped off at the shelters? The two shelters that we do have in Newark, the Salvation Army and the St. Vincent's Men's Shelter, both only serve people from Licking County. I called the Salvation Army today to verify that, and I spoke to Ashley at St. Vincent's Haven, and she also verified that. Both these places require a picture ID. So somebody coming from Franklin County or somewhere else is not going to be able to stay at the shelter. There's also a question about programming. St. Vincent's does have programming at their men's shelter. When somebody does check into the Salvation Army, they are assigned a counselor or someone to work with them. There is a limited amount of time that they can stay there. They're not staying there for years on end. I'd also just like to give a couple of examples of some of the people I have met. Probably one time last week when it was over 90 degrees, we were on East Main Street giving out water. We weren't giving out water, asking people, do you have a place to live? No, anybody who came down East Main Street in that heat, including mailman, we gave a bottle of water. One of the people who came up was a young woman. She was 8 months pregnant, and she stated that she was living in her car. So we asked her if she had gone to basically the coalition, the Licking County Coalition for Housing. She had been there, and you have to have your homeless status verified. Since she was living in the car, she was told that she had to move her car, so they couldn't verify her degree of homelessness. She had also gone to Metro to see whether or not she would qualify for their assistance, and was told there was at least a 4-year waiting list before she could get any assistance. We suggested that she go to an agency that helps pregnant women. She did, and she was offered free prenatal vitamins. So here's a woman who spent her life, well, she also is working. She works at a fast food restaurant. So this is an example of somebody who is on the street. Another example is a woman, and I call her Miss Margaret because she's been coming to the outreach as long as I can remember. She is not literally homeless, but she was living in a rental unit on East Main Street last year when the water was turned off. Her landlord told her if she went down and paid the back payments for water, maybe the water would be turned back on. She has some mental challenges, so she used her Social Security to go and pay the water bill. Water was still not turned on. She ended up, so I said, yeah, Miss Margaret, how are you doing? I just go down to the river and wash. Just one other example, I happen to live next to Charlie Franks, and he has a young man who's been around for as long as I can remember. Yes, this man was incarcerated at one point in time. He has been out of prison for over 2 years, and since that time, he has been living at the Budget Inn. This person is not homeless. He works 10 to 12 hours a day. He cannot find any place to rent, mainly because he has a 12-year-old domestic violence charges. So he would technically be considered homeless since he's living at the budget end. He has spent over $25,000, just living at the budget end. One of the things I think we do need to keep in mind is the availability of rentals in our community. Rents are up, wages are going up. The average rental for a 2-bedroom house in Licking County is a little over $1,200. The average wage earner is $12.96 an hour. It's about $7 less than what you would need, $7 less than that you would need to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. People are being given vouchers. They cannot find rent. We do have if we do close down places like the shelter and we close down places like St. Vincent's, there's just going to be more people on the street. One of the things I think we need to consider is several years ago, we hired consultants to study the homeless issue in Licking County. A homeless action plan was developed. You can look at that, it's very lengthy. You can look at that, the Licking County Coalition Housing website. It does have some doable things in there. So unless we want to keep hearing the situation for the next couple of years, some action needs to be taken. I understand Mr. Romine's concerns, but I'm sorry, to call people without shelter and compare them to reptiles is just not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel Crawford, 163 South Second Street. Well, it was not my plan to come back for quite a while. I've been taking a break from politics and stuff in general as part of a promise I made to my kids after the last election. But recent events, have compelled me to, get back involved, ranging from the primary election earlier in August to the comments that were made at the last council meeting. So I've been watching the council meetings on YouTube throughout the year, just, staying up to date that way. And heard Mr. Romine's comments and was just taken aback, absolutely disgusted with the things I was hearing him say. And when you hear people, and unfortunately his views are not isolated. There's a lot of people in the city, in the county who think the way he does. And it's repulsive. I've encountered these viewpoints when I've run for city council myself, or even school board. I've heard people say things like the conspiracy theory, which is what it sounds like about people being dropped off in Newark, as if we have more services than the other larger counties around us. Absolutely absurd. But the notion that the outreach programs are a public nuisance, as Mr. Romine said, is also utterly ridiculous that he said that. If there's anyone who's a public nuisance, it's the people who create the conditions for homelessness to begin with. The people who jack up the rent prices beyond what you can afford. The employers who do not pay their employees enough to be able to survive. And of course, the lack of public transportation. All these different things can contribute to the rise of homelessness. Homeless people are not the problem. They are a symptom of the problem in our system. So instead of sitting by and allowing these ridiculous mindsets to fester, which of course you can't control what people think, but at least, in this public venue, we can try to say, hey, these people are not to be demonized. You can't call homeless people alligators who shouldn't be fed. You can't compare them. I apologize if I'm misreading the man's comments, but he said human trash. He could be saying these humans leaving trash or calling them human trash. I read it repeatedly and it's kind of hard to decipher what he was trying to say in his ridiculous rant. So it's obvious when you hear people make these comments, they probably never experienced it themselves. And I've heard from Ms. Mosler that someone lives in a budget inn, had to spend so much money. In 2001, I think I mentioned it before, when 9/11 happened, my family, we were living in the budget inn because we were in between houses. There's a whole host of reasons for why you end up without a home. Doesn't mean that you're trash or some wild animal who should be starved. Because if we were to shut down all these programs, no, you would not get rid of the homeless problem. You would create the conditions for it to get worse and for people to die because they have a lack of resources. So I do appreciate the two members of council who did speak up, Ms. Hottinger and Mr. Harris. I appreciate it. So going forward, I implore you, when you see this repulsive mindset rising up, speak up, respect their opinion, but at the same time, let them know it's repulsive.
City officials? Go. Come on.
Hi, Stormy Curry, 215 East Main Street, Newark. Sorry, I get nervous, but I just wanted to touch briefly. I am the owner at Summer Home Recovery. We just opened up and it's just touching on it, what everybody else has touched here. A lot of the drug problem, it seems to come from the homelessness, like that's a lot of triggers for them. So I just wanted to touch and say that we're here, we're trying to help them. We've been open for 2 weeks now. We've helped a bunch of people. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, I get
Yes,
nervous.
you're fine. You're fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any city officials tonight?
Yeah, just a few items real quick. Nice job tonight, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Very good show. I want to thank council for their support in the financial analyst position, along with the financial, the bonds, the notes that came before you this evening. 2 weeks ago, myself, Mr. Rhodes, Mr. Weiss, and our bond counsel took part in an S&P rating call. We got the results, received a very high rating, which will equate to lower interest rates on these bonds coming up. So we're very happy with that. And finally, also too, I also want to mention, if anybody's interested, our annual comprehensive financial report is now online with the city. It used to be called the CAFR, and now it's called the ACFR. So if anybody is looking for something to do in the evening, maybe after Big Browns win Sunday, you and Heidi can read the ACFR. It is online. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other city officials? Old director?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Detective Mackenzie Harris and Detective Jamie Farmer at the Newark Police Department. They ran the Battle of the Badges last weekend at Don Edwards Park. I got to participate in that, shake off the rust a little bit. After so many years, it's not playing softball, but it was a great event, goes to a great cause, giving kids school supplies as needed, backpacks, etc. So hopefully they'll do it again next year. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. This past Friday, I was fortunate to attend the CTEC for the high school career signing day. And it's their second annual, although COVID's kind of made that kind of crazy because the first annual was in 2019. And I don't know what the history records will show, but it'll be a little crazy. But anyways, it is 45 seniors at CTEC that have signed on for full-time jobs generally. And so they will have busy years. I sat next to a mother and talked to her and congratulated her son. He's going to be working in Gahanna in electrical trades. He will spend 40-hour work week at the job. And then the next week he does 2 weeks of CTEC in 1 week. So I would like to congratulate all those students in I think 20 different industries. A phenomenal job. They're going to work hard, but what a great way to start out your life, I think, and move in the right directions. They're going to be workaholics already, and that's great. I think for that. Secondary, a week ago Saturday, there was an honor at the service event that I attended and participated in out at the airport. It was to honor Vietnam veterans, 48 of them with Lincoln County addresses lost their lives in that war. And I would like to thank the Friendship Club and all the supporters of that event. There were 496 volunteers that helped with that event. The Traveling Vietnam wall came in and it's 360 feet long. I think it alone is $12,000, I believe. So there's a lot of good sponsorship there. But the families were involved. They had 220 Vietnam War veterans from all around the state that came in. About 500 people wanted to attend at the time when we did the ceremony. So pretty neat. But we appreciate this county loves their veterans and active duty service personnel. Is very good. I do want to congratulate Auditor Bob and his team. That is great when we get good credit ratings, and we talk about that a lot. It's like anything else. If you don't have a good rating, you just pay the lender more money. and we get no more for that money. But they've done a great job, and as you know, you went through a lot of legislation tonight, but that'll do us some good things. And finally, I want to congratulate the Newark High Bobcat football team that is 2-1 this year, having won their last 2 games, and pretty exciting games in a lot of ways. And so hard work and perseverance and determination does pay off. Sometimes it takes a few years to get there, but to congratulate all of them. With that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Rath.
Thank you. I'll start off by offering my condolences to the Sound and Hollinger family for loss. And I'll call a service committee meeting for September 19th with that pass.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start off by showing my condolences to you. Your family has helped my family out more than anyone in this room does. So my grandma was with your parents. To be honest, so I want to thank you. And last time I seen Jay was at my grandma's funeral.
Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sherry, of course, condolences. Of course, I know how it is losing a parent. It's not fun at all. It's not anything anybody ever wants to go through, but it happens, unfortunately. As we said earlier, Saturday is Light the Night Cruise in downtown Newark, returning here for the 37th year, I believe it is. So we've got a great lineup. They're excited. We're excited to kick that off as that's kind of the fundraising kickoff for the Christmas lighting of the courthouse. So that is this Saturday. Registration's at 10 a.m. and the show goes till 4 p.m. Also, coming up next week, the Rotary clubs in town, the Lions Club, the Kiwanis Club, is participating in a cleanup day at the Yes Club. As we all probably remember, back in early 2020, I think it was, the Yes Club had a fire that ripped through most of the entire building. Last week, I, as a past president of Rotary, went and met with them to kind of look at this project. So we're going to be for over 3 different days doing multiple cleanup projects on their exterior. We did get to tour the interior. It's still looks like a car wash inside, but it's, you know, they've changed the layout a little bit. It's really what they needed. Unfortunately, the circumstances to get there weren't great, but we're going to be doing that cleanup day with, I think they're hoping to have you know, some type of grand opening in October. So that'll be the 13th, 14th, and 15th. And I would encourage any of my fellow council members, if you wish to help out, let me know, and I'll let you know what days we're doing what. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Ms. Wine.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. President. And to Sherry, I'm sorry. I agree with the mayor, that event out there, that was amazing. It was one of the most honoring things I've been to in a long time, and to have that here, that was fantastic. To speak to our honored guest, Ms. Blake, thank you so much for coming to speak to that crossing there. That is a dangerous place sometimes, because truly they blow you there and you don't have a chance. And you're standing there. And homelessness is a multifaceted, even within the facets, there are facets. But I would like to address some of the things that some of the comments that were made. And first, I honor everyone here, you guys, and the hearts for the people. But I've taken people home that have been dropped off, or not from here. One woman in particular, she came to council to speak. And I left, everyone was leaving, and she was still standing here. I said, so where are you gonna go? So, you have family? No. You have a job? No. So where are you gonna go? I don't know. So are you from here? No. How'd you get here? Well, it was kind of like a bus that brought me. I can't really. I said, well, I'll take you home. And she was from Perry County. And I've spoken to many people out on the streets that are not from here. And true to point, they can't get shelter because they don't have IDs, because they're not from here. And to my recognition of the people that I've spoken to, it's about 60-40, 60% being from here, the other 40% are from out of town. And I do work with the women. I said, you know, when you're ready to go, I'll take you home. But they're not ready. They're scared. They don't know me. You know? And so, but when they're ready, I'll take them home. Now, with that being said, South Newark is a place of great capacity. It's people being you know, a great treasure, but we need consistency and accountability. One of the things that the citizens are working with is accountability within HUD housing, because not all housing managers systems are created equal, as Sherry had said. And unfortunately, there are some managements that are that are completely detached from what's happening in their complexes. And so persons from out of town are coming in that really have no place to live. And because they're coming from out of town, what they're bringing with them is not in the best interest of the community. And so the citizens are doing a great job reporting them to HUD and saying, this complex is being mismanaged. This house is being mismanaged. It's time for accountability. As well, there are other houses here within, I can think of probably 15 right off the top of my head that are literally rotting in the ground. That could be appropriate housing for people. But again, because they live out of state, and it's not the fact that property maintenance is not doing their job. They're running around that, you know, trying to keep track. Talk about herding cats. There you go. All right. And they're doing a great job, but we're pursuing another process to hold them accountable, because it's time. We need housing. And so, but we've got to have that consistency and accountability. Also, as I was going around on the 27th after that event, I sat between 11th Street and West Main and Newark Station, and there was the hub, there was Jugs, there was Towns, and Newark Station all had music events going on at once, and that place was vibrating, and I saw some things that I didn't think that I would see in Newark, as far as things that negatively impact this place. And we can do better. We need the sound ordinance to bring the consistency and accountability to save these neighborhoods. I have businesses that are considering coming in to South Newark, and do we need them? Yes, we need jobs. We need the housing. We need the tax dollars that they're going to bring. But if they come in on a Saturday night and take a tour of these places, we can do better. We need the sound ordinance, and we need this consistency and accountability that this neighborhoods, all of our neighborhoods, really deserve. This is a great place, and I have high expectations, or I wouldn't be here. And so I thank you. I apologize for the length, but there's a lot going on. And thank you all for your support.
Yes, just want to thank everybody for the comments. I really appreciate that. It is hard losing a parent and then losing another one 8 months later. It made it tough. So I appreciate you guys are great. Thank you for the flowers that I passed.
Mr. Hauser.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple things tonight. I want to remind everyone about the Licking County Root Roundup this Saturday. My wife and I'll be out there for that. It's always a good event, usually well attended, and very well, definitely needed with all the trash with water. It's always great. So with that, I also want to mention thank you for coming out about the Lake and Second crossing, bringing that to our attention. We appreciate that. For a couple of comments that I want to make, and I'll just say, Mr. Romine definitely did have comparisons in his discussion that were probably not appropriate in some of his comparisons. I do think it's important to capture the message of what he was trying to do there. And I think what he did bring up was interactions that he's having as a citizen of this city that have been negative with people who may or may not have been homeless, but he was just bringing his side of the story to attention. And I think that's a side that needs to be heard. It doesn't need to be expressed maybe in that way. Certainly there were comparisons that could have been left out there for sure. I just do want to say that we need to take into account that his perspective in analysis, because as you mentioned, that's the perspective of a lot of people here. So we have to balance out both those perspectives. And lastly, Sherry, I just want to say I'm very sorry for passing. Both of them.
Mr. Labutus?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to pass on condolences to Snyder. I will ask.
Mr. Lang?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Sherry, it's very good to see you back here, and my condolences. Losing parents hard, and you've done it twice in less than a year. So it's a lot of loss for your family. We're all very sorry for you. With that, I'll pass.
Mr. Marmy?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did call a finance committee meeting for the 19th. My condolences to Sherry. Thoughts and prayers continued. I know it needs to be continued too. So been there. So really thinking about you and your family. Just a couple of comments. Ms. Blake, I want to comment on the street light and the removal of the street light. Whenever a traffic study is done in the state of Ohio, if it is not justifiable to have a traffic light, if the traffic light is placed there by a municipality, we're liable for any kind of an accident that may occur at that point, where if there is something that's warranted or no traffic study is done at all, then it is at the discretion of the municipality. I remember the traffic study that was done on that intersection, and it was not warranted to have it at that intersection. So that's why that was removed. If there's an issue, then we need to get our law enforcement, our police officers maybe patrolling it a little bit. We do not need vehicles running stop signs. So maybe we can step up a little bit of patrolling in that area for a period of time to try to deter that. A couple of tickets that get issued for something like that, it spreads like wildfire and it tends to slow it down a little bit. So maybe we can do something along those lines. A lot of different comments and opinions about a lot of things tonight, and basically around the homeless issue. There are a lot of opinions out there. I am a firm believer, and I know of folks who have seen buses drop off folks downtown on the square. And so some of the other solutions that are being presented, bring it on. Let's bring on the solutions if there's a solution. So if we just talk about it, then nothing's really gonna happen. I don't agree with the needle exchange. I think that just promotes drug use, and I do not believe in doing that. I can't condone needle use for illegal drugs, and I don't think that is a viable solution to anything. I would be interested to find out where you got your statistics on the average salary for Licking County. I don't believe that number. I've seen a couple of other numbers. Newark, Ohio is much higher than that, looking at the census and everything. If you're talking averages, if you're talking median, you said average. So I don't believe that's an accurate comment when you say average. Just knowing wages in Licking County, and you stated Licking County also. Some other things that I agree with Mr. Hauser that some of the mannerisms, the passion that was put into the discussion last council meeting, I don't know, I don't think he was calling anybody a reptile. I don't believe that that's what was happening. Personally, I think he was just using an analogy. Jesus used all kinds of different stories to tell, parables and all kinds of different stories that were just out there. So I don't believe that he was calling anybody animals, and I don't believe that he called anybody trash either. I think he just had a passion. He's frustrated with what is happening to him, and he just wanted his voice and his opinion heard. Just like I've heard passion and things said in here by other individuals that I respect the passion. And, you know, I don't think he showed immediate disrespect to anybody. As a matter of fact, somebody showed him disrespect by booing, and that is disrespectful. And so if somebody cannot provide their opinion, and it could be not be done in a respectful manner, then, you know, what's the difference between the person in the back who didn't remove his cap the entire time, including during the Pledge of Allegiance, and then booed an individual for giving an opinion? Are we really going to start throwing rocks like that? And which is worse? Or do we condone, or what do we do? So I believe that everybody has good ideas, opinions, and we should listen to them all and move forward with all of them that we can within our ability and our power, and try to come up with solutions. But compromise means maybe doing some things from both sides of that story. And I think that we can move forward in that direction, and we can show the folks at the national level that Newark, Ohio is not divided like the country is divided. And let's work together in order to come up with solutions. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Three quick things and we'll get out of here. I want to congratulate Newark football. That was a good game Friday night. I was there because I wanted to be, said I made history with Newark for winning 2 games in a row. Also on September 16th at 7:30 is the yearly graveyard walk at the cemeteries at Cedar Hill. I think it's going to be Civil War veterans. That's what it's going to be on.
Yeah.
And then I want to thank the Lopez girls for the pledge tonight. When I reached out to Julie, the principal, and she says, I got a student for you. And then the sister wanted to do it too. So she said, can they both come? I said, sure, why not? So, and then one last thing, I heard Mr. Raff said, I must not be able to hear this side of the room tonight. I wanted you to feel like Mr. Ellington was here tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Parker, second by Rubin. All in favor?